G'day folks, and welcome to Gormo's Shed. Well, what we're looking at today is the second part of the tutorial about designing control panels, and specifically we're looking at track diagrams on control panels, a bit like this one down here next to me. So it's all done on the computer, but before we get into that, you should really sort of have a design sketched out, something that you can refer to while you're designing on the computer. I mean, what I've done is I've got a control panel over to the left here for Bamford, which is temporary, and I've just got a sheet of actually it's masonite I think, and I've drawn the track plan on there with a texter. It's roughly at the right sort of spacing if I was to print it out. However, it just gives you an idea of what you're sort of working with and what elements to put in there. One of the important things I think is when you look at a track plan like this one on Bamford, it's just lines, and there's no sort of reference point there. So that's why you'll find on the track plans I do, I've got station platforms, and I've got buildings like goods sheds and signal boxes and so on. It just gives you that reference point when you're looking at a schematic, so you can sort of say, oh yeah, that's the signal box, therefore that must be the main line or whatever, or the goods road or something like that. Yeah, I find it pretty handy actually, and it's no big deal to put in a schematic of a station or a signal box or a goods shed or whatever. They're only sort of symbolic, they're not actual scale drawings. And that's another point, nothing's actually to scale, so the track lengths that you use don't have to be to scale. Just think about the London tube map. Now that's a classic example where nothing is to scale, and I don't think there's any curved lines on there. There may be, but you know, everything's sort of just shooting off at angles and everything, but it all makes sense. One quick look at it and you can say, yeah, this makes sense. I know where I'm going, I know what I'm doing, I know how to connect, all that sort of thing. So that's the sort of philosophy we need to use for control panels, I feel anyway, and I think a lot of people use that philosophy. Now folks, in this design process I haven't used any sort of fancy colours or anything. They're all available there on the software. And also there's stuff you can download to use for backgrounds and all that sort of thing, but really the colour scheme's up to you. If you do some research and you find something that really takes your fancy and you think, I would like to copy that and make it almost look prototypical, or maybe you can make it look prototypical, go for it. But yeah, there's no rules about colours, just let your imagination go wild and see how you go with this process. Okay, the page setup folks, this is fairly important. So what we'll do is we'll go into LibreOffice and open drawing. Now if you go up to the page up the top there and then select properties, you'll notice that you're presented with this screen, so just change the setting from portrait to landscape and click OK. And then we will view the page pane. Now this is a handy thing to have if you're using more than one page, more so than the navigator, which is over the other side, which looks similar but doesn't have as many features to it as the page pane. So the page pane is more flexible in this situation. You can also create new pages quite easily or delete them. So we'll create a few here and I can show you how you can sort of easily skip in between them. Excuse me. So they're numbered. You can see that they have a name that says slide 1, etc. And on slide 1 we'll just create a rectangle here when we can get our arrow to work properly there. Now on number 2 we'll put an oval, and number 3 we will put a smiley face, and number 4 we'll put this 3D image of a cylinder. Now you can move these around in any order, and it's up to you however you want to do it. You can also rename them so that they make more sense to you. The grid's a very handy tool to have because it helps guide you with your drawing. So you need to go up to View and then just select Display Grid, which will take you out again, and then View again, go in and also click on Grid to the front, and again we'll go in and select Help Lines while moving. You can also go up into Tools and then Options. Under the LibreOffice Draw section, select Grid, and that shows you that your grid here is set out as 10mm squares. You can change that to whatever you want, but that's what we're working with here, which is not bad, I suppose. Now, to give you an idea of what it looks like when it's set up, you can see how the grid shows through the blue there, which is very handy. And if you go to move this thing, the dotted lines come up as guides that show you how your object is moving around, especially in relation to the grid and also to other objects. So probably what we should do is move this object just out of the way a bit, and then we'll get another object to bring in to show you how it will relate to this rectangle here. So we've got this little piece here. So once we start to move that, you can see how the grid, the guidelines come up to show you how that's placed in relation to the rectangle. Drawing track is not very difficult. What we do is select the rectangle tool and we use our grid as a guide, and just draw out a long skinny rectangle the full width of the page. And then we go into position and size, and the length is okay, or the width we should say is okay. It's the height we need to change. So I'm going to work with 3mm here, folks. So now we've established that, and we can go into properties and determine what color we want for this piece of track. So this is where we're starting to design our panel really. So we'll change that to red, and also I think it would be nicer to have a nice bold line around the edge of it. So we'll select black for that, and then we'll do the line width. So we'll choose 1 point there, which is okay. And then we can zoom in a bit and have a look at it. Yeah, that looks fine. Now we'll get out of properties and we'll just move that down a bit so we can center it on the screen there. Now we shall select that and copy it and paste, and then we'll move that down approximately 20mm away from the other one because it's 10mm squares. And something, we'll just have a look at the grid again there, folks. It looks like grid to the front has become unselected, so we'll just put that on. Now you can see the grid through the track there, which makes life just that little bit easier. And you can adjust it to suit, and you can see how the grid's showing through it there. So we'll just move that back up into place. So those two are about 20mm apart, but the spacing is up to you and all depends on how your track's laid out. So there we go. Now we'll paste it again and bring it down, and we'll make some other parts. So once you have one part created, folks, you can start to use that to create other parts. So we'll change the length on this one. We don't really need to change the keep the ratio. You could select that, but we'll just change the length and keep the height the same. So we'll change that to 30mm. And what we're doing with this is creating points. So what we'll do is copy that one as well, and we will also rotate it to 45 degrees, and that becomes part of our schematic. So that's a point, or 2 points actually, facing one direction. A left-hander, I suppose that would be. Yes, that's right, a left-hander. Now if we take the left-hander and click on it we can move it up into position quite easily. And if we zoom in on it, we can sort of do a bit of fine adjustment on it. It just needs to go up a bit. And also it looks better if it's behind those two main lines there. So we'll send it to the back. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, now with this one, we probably would like to face it the other way. So we just select it and go down into flip horizontally, and we've got a 45-degree piece of track facing the other direction. And that can be moved up into place. Again, it all depends on your particular track plan, folks. We're just making this up as we're going along here, just to show you how it all works. And we'll arrange that so that it goes back, and that's nicely behind those two main lines there. So what we'll do is change the color of one of those main lines. We don't want them both red in this case, so we'll change one to blue. We'll find the right shade of blue. There we go. Now this is how easy it is, folks. You can start mixing and matching your colors. If you've got a color code in mind to work on your track plan, that's good. If you don't want just all black track, if you want a color coded system, which makes life easier sometimes, you can quite easily do it here. So what we're doing here is we're going to adjust the length of this track, and it's best done in the horizontal position. If you try and adjust the length of it while it's at 45 degrees, it will distort somewhat. So we're reducing this down to half its length, down to 15 millimeters. And what we do then is change the color after we get into properties, and we'll change that also to blue, which will be in our recent colors there. Now what this is doing is saying that diagrammatically this point is part of the blue line once we rotate it. So we'll shift that up to cover the red section there, so only half of it. And what we're saying there is that point is running off the blue line. I mean, you don't have to do that. You can, as I say, you can go all one color if you want to. But to me, it just makes a little bit more sense when you're trying to read these things and sort of understand what belongs to what and where it originates. We can also arrange that so it goes behind, just to make the thing look better. So we go down to Arrange on our right-click menu, Send Backwards, and there it is. So now, obviously, we can copy that so that we can do the set of points on the right-hand side. So all we have to do is select that little blue section there, copy it, paste it, and move it into place, and obviously flip it horizontally. So we'll just flip that and move it across into position. Just position it. If you need to do some fine positioning, just zoom in on these things. This is pretty simple, folks, really. For station platforms, all we're going to do is make a long rectangle. No fancy ends on it. I mean, it's up to you. You can do fancy ends if you want to, but in this case, we're just doing a very simple rectangle. And as I mentioned, it's easy to refer to where the tracks are when you have something in position like a station platform or a building or whatever. It starts to make more sense. You can sort of, it gives you a reference point. You can say, oh, that's the station, so therefore the track above that must be the blue main line and the one below is the goods yard or whatever. So it's just put in there to make life a bit easier for you when you're trying to read your track diagram. So what we're doing here, folks, is we're just changing the colour of the platform there to make it a bit more like a platform colour-wise, and we've copied the original rectangle, and now the second rectangle we're changing the size of it. We're just reducing it a bit. I think it needs a bit more, so we'll reduce that a bit more down to 26 millimeters so that it fits within the other rectangle. So we'll just drag that down a bit, and now we need to do some color changes here. So we've changed the first rectangle to white, so we've got that white border now. Now we haven't got a white border on the left hand side, so we'll just drag that second rectangle just along a bit so you can see the white border, and on the right hand side we'll just drag it in a bit. While we're here, folks, we'll start working on some track to come around the other side of that station platform. So we've copied the top bit of track there, and we'll drag that down, and we'll also change the colour of that, and we'll change its length, and we'll change the angle of it as well. So we'll start with the colour. We'll make that green, and we'll go into position size, and we will make the length of it 60, and now we need to rotate it, so 45 degrees again. Doesn't have to be 45, you can make it whatever angle you want, but I'm working on 45 here, and now we need to flip that. So we'll just move that into position, just near the station there. That looks pretty good. And we've just arranged it so that that green line's gone under that blue line there. And obviously we would bring a little blue section down to put on that little half section to put on that bit of green there as well. So we've now just brought down another bit of track, and we've changed the colour, and we're now dragging this one to change its length, and we'll just move that up into position. Now the critical part, folks, aligning with the next sheet. This is where all the magic happens. So all we have to do is select all on sheet 1. That copies everything, or selects everything. Now we need to copy it. So we right click and copy. Now we go across to sheet 2, select sheet 2, nothing there. So then we just put our paste in there, and it's, lo and behold, it's sent everything over, still selected. Exactly the same as page 1. So now if we flip it horizontally, it's the mirror reverse of page 1. And this is where we can go in and change things if we need to. You can see these blue and red points are not quite right, are they? You've got too many points working there on the main line. No need for all those points. And so we can change things here. So what we'll do is look at what we can do. We can get rid of that section there. We can get rid of this one. Or no, maybe not. We'll get rid of this one. That makes more sense. And the red one as well. So now we've got something that's a bit like a terminus. And we'll get rid of that one. And that one. So how's that looking, folks? Okay, copying elements from page to page. Well, it's quite obvious, isn't it? if you've got an element you need on page 2, you just go to page 1 and copy that thing and then transfer it over. So if you go to page 1, copy this green section here, go to page 2, paste it, move it into place and flip it. Slide it across. There you have it, and arrange it to go behind. Looks like it needs another go there, folks. That's got it. Okay, folks, staying with the theme, in other words, keeping it consistent across the whole drawing. So we need a little blue section to go on this green bit here to make it the same as the main lines. So we just go back to page 1 and grab one of the little blue sections there, copy that, and we'll take it across to page 2, paste it in place, and then drag it into position, or use the arrow keys to bring it over into position, and then just drop it down there and do the fine adjustment on it. Got to move it around a bit. Maybe we need to zoom in and have a look at that. Yeah, we'll just gently encourage that to be in the correct position there. Sometimes it takes a little bit of fiddling, and we need to also send it to the back as well once we've got it done. That's about as close as we're going to get, folks. I think that's not too bad. So we'll just arrange that and send it to the back. Buildings are those reference points we've been talking about, and it's quite easy to make a building because you're looking down on the roof of something. So if we start to make, say, a station building here, it's basically just a rectangle and of the appropriate size and colour to suit the station. So we need the roof probably a bit darker than the platform there to sort of make it obvious. And this is probably not a great reference point, this particular building, because it's part of the station anyway. But we can make some other buildings to enhance the diagram anyway. So it's just a matter of doing a rectangle, change the colour to whatever suits. You can put in some nice little bits like ridge capping, and you can do that with just a straight line. Just draw a line across the top of the station building, and then we can change the colour so it looks a bit more like ridge capping, and orange is usually pretty good for an English building. And we can change the line width to something which makes it sort of a little bit more dominant. Yeah, okay. And then the thing to do is to select the ridge capping, select the building by holding the shift key, right menu, and then group, and that will become one entity. If you move it around, it's all the one thing. So sometimes if you don't group these things, you might move the building and the ridge capping stays behind. So that's easily done. And up here we'll make a signal box, let's say. That's a good spot for a signal box, right near all the points there. Same process, just do a little rectangle, pick a colour that you like to represent the roof, and we'll put some ridge capping on there as well. So it's just using the line tool again, dragging the line tool across the centre of the building and changing that to the appropriate colour and width, which is all very easy to do. And yeah, it needs a bit more width there, so we'll go with 1.5 points, and that's done. Very simple. Now let's make it bigger. So there we are. So down here, let's extend the line here so that we can do a goods area, and then we can do a goods shed. So we'll just copy and paste that line down there, and we'll adjust the width accordingly just by dragging it. You can see its position there, so we'll just move that to the right, and then we'll drag the right hand end in to the margin. Just drag it into the margin. When you print this out, folks, you'll cut off at the margin there. So now what we need is a good shed. But first we will extend that line onto page 2. Just paste, and then we'll move the line over to the margin, and that will line up perfectly with page 1. So now we've got the track there for our goods shed. Again, a rectangle, and this time, well, the track goes through a goods shed, so we'll put the rectangle over the track, give it a suitable colour, go into properties, select the item, change the colour to whatever you want, which is a nice grey there, that's okay. We might even give that a bit more definition by changing the border to black. That just sort of gives it a nice outline there. Now we'll create some skylights in the roof. Just little panels here. No science here, folks, just draw out what looks right, and let's give them a colour, say a yellow. That looks okay. So we'll copy that, and then we'll slide it into place. And then it's just a matter of copying and pasting to do the rest of them. So it's just a matter of paste every time. Move it into position. So let's speed that up. We'll get this done in a hurry. We're knocking them out like little sausages, folks. Look at them go. Wish it was all that quick. Okay, done. And we'll just drag that building a bit just to make it a bit bigger. Done. How's that? And let's put a line in there just to clean that up a bit too. I think that's fine. No, let's make it a bit wider around the edge. Right. We're going to put some labels on some of these things, like main line up, main line down, etc. So it's just a matter of selecting the T for text up the top, write in what you want there, and then we'll work out what size and font and everything we want. So we highlight the text and we'll find a suitable font. This narrow one looks good, that's good, and we'll make it bold, we'll make it italic, and we'll reduce the size a bit, I think. Yep, that's good. So once you've got your one lot of text, it's just a matter of copying that and pasting and then changing the wording. That way it keeps it all the same, it keeps it consistent. So we'll copy that and we will paste. Move that up into position. And that's going to be the down line, so we need to change that text. So we just highlight the bit we want to get rid of. And type in down, which is too long for the box now, so we just have to drag the little box a bit to the right to allow down to rise up next to main. That's it. We might have to do that a couple of times, folks. It started with the smallest one, so I'm predicting we'll have to do this with every one of these that we do. So now we can do the goods road. I suppose that's the next logical one down there. So we'll paste in the text, bring it down, to the goods road. And then it's the same process where we highlight the one bit that we want to get rid of, which in this case is the whole thing, and type in goods road, which will be too long again. Made a mistake there. We need a capital R, and we need to drag the box to lengthen it to create goods road all on one line. And we'll just drag that down a bit. Okay. That looks fine. Now on page 2 we can continue on the theme, and we can call this goods shed. Same process as usual. Delete what you don't want and type in what you do want, again, which will be too long. Drag the box to suit. And there we have it. And then we have a signal box up there as well, so we might as well do that while we're on the job. Same process again. It's all about staying consistent, folks, and making things a bit easier, so you don't have to go in and do each individual one, selecting fonts and selecting sizes and all this sort of thing. Just do one. If everything's going to follow the same theme, do one and then copy and paste and modify as necessary. Makes the life a lot easier. Well, the system I use is just numbers, folks. I number my points from 1 to whatever. So we drag a little rounded rectangle out and use the little yellow dot there to transform it into this totem shaped thing. Select a colour that suits your colour scheme. I'm going with a creamy colour for this one, and we'll have a look at the line around the thing. We'll change the colour to a brown, and we'll also change the thickness of the line to 1.5. That looks pretty good to me. So it's just a process of putting this in place. I usually lob it over the top of the point, and we'll give that a number. In this case, this will be point number 1. And that number looks rather large, so we'll have to reduce the size of that by going to the reduction section there in properties, get it to approximately the right size, and then select it, and we can drag it down and put it in the little totem there. Try and center it as best you can. That looks pretty good. And we will hold the shift key and copy the totem and the number together. We will group that so that if you move it, it all moves together. And we can copy that and then just keep repeating it. So it's just a matter of pasting and doing the other ones, but changing the number each time you go. So therefore we've got our consistent system again, where the only thing that will change is the number. So it's just a matter of putting it in place, deselecting it, hover over the number, click. When you see the cursor there, just drag that across the number or delete and enter the number that you want in there. Simple. And if we go to the next point, which will be number 3, and actually it's better we leave that at 1. I think we'll change that one to 3. That's better. Yep. And then we can follow the same process on page 2 just by pasting. All this is sped up a bit, folks, so we can get through this process a bit quicker. Just renumber. Bingo bongo, here we go. Look at it. Like little sausages. Okay, now the railway logo. Now this is a work of art, folks. It all depends on what railway you've got, what colours you want, all that sort of thing, but you can easily create a totem to suit your railway and to suit your control panel here. So this is a multi-layered system here. So first thing we do is create one totem here and go into properties. Have to select it first, and we'll change the color to brown. Now we'll copy that. Now it's just copying, pasting and changing the size, folks, to create this thing. So we select that, change the size by just a few millimeters, and we'll keep the same ratio. We'll change the color, and we'll also change the line color. Now we'll move that down over the first one and position it. There's other ways you could do this, but it's the same with computers. There's always about 3 ways to do things. So we'll just drag that out a bit so it looks more even. That's good. Now that's it. And we need to do the other side as well. Okay. So we've pasted again. Pasting again, copying and pasting. Now this one, we'll do something different again. We'll drop it down inside the other one once we've got it set up with the line shape and everything. And we will make that a bit bigger. And we'll take the colour out of it. So we'll use the transparency slider there to take the colour out of it. And now if we drop that down onto the main totem, it will form this inner ring. And we can adjust the length again just by dragging it. Left click and drag. That's not quite right. Left click and drag. We'll go back to that right one again. Yes, that's it. So you can see, folks, you're building up layers and layers to get all these different lines and things, and copying and pasting the same sort of image and modifying it slightly to get what you want in the end. Now what we'll do with this one is something quite drastic. We'll use this as the back part of the totem, which you quite often see it sort of sticks up at the top and the bottom, or down at the bottom. So we'll make it a bit taller than the actual totem below, and then we'll drag that down over the top, and then we need to send that behind the other one. So we right click, arrange, and send it to the back, and then we can just position it so that it's right. Now we get another one. Now with this one we need a background for our text, so we'll change the color to brown, Great Western Railway brown, and we'll drag it down to a narrow skinny shape and probably drag the ends in a little bit so that it fits inside the totem, and hopefully our text will fit on there as well. So we'll just put that down inside the totem like so. That's pretty good. Maybe to the left a little. Just rearrange and till it looks correct to you. Now we go up to the text and we've got to create a name for the railway. So in this case we'll just put your railway name. And of course you can select whatever sort of colours you want for the text. We'll probably go with a white here on that background, and you can make it bold, you can have a shadow on it, all that sort of thing. So we'll make it bold, we'll put a shadow on it, and we'll change the colour and we'll make it white. No, we'll make it cream. Let's try that. Okay, that's not bad. But you can do anything you like there, folks. Anything that suits your taste. Backgrounds, you've got a lot of choices here. What we do is, let's get rid of the grid lines. We don't really need them anymore. And for backgrounds, there's a few ways you can go about it. If you go into properties, and where it says background there, at the moment we don't have one. But you can choose from colours, and you can see how they change the whole look of the thing. You can select different colours. You couldn't miss that one, folks. Nice and bright. You can pick all sorts of different shades there. Just a few examples of what you can do. You can also do custom colours, which puts you into this screen here. So you're looking for this little circle amongst the colour, and you'll notice that the little colour palette below changes as you move that circle around. So you can find a range of colour that you're looking for. So if we sort of head towards the yellows on the right there, and then we move that around within the yellow, it starts to change. It becomes lighter or darker depending on where you move it. And you can keep that as a custom colour if you want. And the thing to remember is the number of the colour. If you want to be consistent, if you type in that number in there, that colour will come up. Now what else we got here? We've got the bitmap, folks, which is basically images. The trouble with the bitmap images is that they're small images that they multiply and blow up like little tiles. Some of them look okay, but some of them you can see the repeat pattern in them, and some of them you just, it doesn't really work for a control panel. I mean, that looks okay, but there's all sorts there you can play around with and have a look at. Nah, not really. That's interesting. Could be something in that one, but anyway, it's all personal taste as to what you want. You can see there what I mean about the repeat pattern. That's supposed to be old paper, I think, that one. And of course you've got gradients as well. The gradient gives you two different colours, so you just haven't got that flat one colour, so you can sort of select what different colours you want and muck around with it that way. What you can also do is search online for paper textures, and if you find something that takes your fancy, you can always copy it, you can save it, download it onto your system, and you can insert that later on. So there's a whole heap of selections here, and you want to look for large ones, large sizes, so you don't have, if you insert a small one as your background, it won't go right out to the margins, so you want something big. So you can see these examples here with showing the pixels, 4000 by 3000, 1820 by 1365. They're all fairly big images. I found this one here, so we might open that up. That just looks like old paper, so what we might do is we'll save that one, and we'll probably use that as a background. I'll just rename that so I can find it in my downloads, and we'll just call that background 1 in case I find another one. So let's get out of here. Now we go back to insert image, downloads, background 1, open, and there puts it into the sheet there on sheet 1. We go to sheet 2, same process, insert image, find the file, open, put it in. Now that's a compromise there, folks. We can also look for logos to suit our railway, and if you're looking, you really want transparent logos or roundels in this case. You can see the checkerboard pattern in the back of this one, which will be ideal for my railway. So we've saved that, and in this case we'll insert an image, and the image is the GWR roundel, and that pops up into sheet 1 there, and we can move that to wherever we like. I think actually it would be better on sheet 2 over the right hand side of the diagram. Yeah, I mean it looks okay there, but it's probably better in sheet 2. So we'll go to sheet 2, insert an image. I suppose I could have copied that and pasted it as well. As I say, there's 2 or 3 ways to do things on computers or laptops or whatever. So we'll just move that into place. Right folks, that's how it's done, but you've noticed that I've just left that heading there when we finished up to print out a draft copy. Now on your printer settings you should be able to work out how to print a draft copy, and just print it in black or grayscale initially to start with, just on paper. Don't bother laminating whatever you've produced. Just print it out, a draft copy, and cut it out to cut off the margins so that you can actually join the 2 pieces if you're doing 2 pieces. If you can, so you can join the 2 pieces correctly, maybe put some sticky tape over them or something to hold them together, but take it out to your shed or your railway room or whatever and try it in place where you think it will live, and then you can work out if there's any mistakes, especially with spacing, with switches and all that sort of thing. Anyway, if there are mistakes, it's easy enough to go back and fix them up. And if you've got a draft copy printed out, you can just make some notes on there, move this line down 10mm or whatever, or put a switch here, or I forgot to put in something there or whatever. It's just a handy way. It saves you going to the trouble of using up colour ink and then laminating the thing, and then you come out to the shed and it, there's a boo-boo. So that's just a little safety measure that I would try. I do it with my control panels. I did it with the one for the turntable here behind me. Printed out a black and white copy, came out, tried it out to see if it makes sense, and it's funny when you look at it on the computer screen, and even when you print it out, you think, yeah, that's fine. You take it outside and you think, nah, I forgot something. So there you go. Anyway, have fun with it folks. I hope this has been of some help to you, and all the best with designing your control panels.